So we got news on Tuesday night from Adam Schefter that the Giants are signing veteran quarterback Russell Wilson to a one-year contract, Mel, that includes $10.5 million guaranteed, a maximum value of $21.5 million. When you heard this news, what was your initial reaction as to what it might mean for the third pick in the draft?
Wasn't surprised. I knew they wanted to have that bridge. They wanted to be able to win some games this year, not put all the pressure on the quarterback if they do take a quarterback at 3 or whenever they take a quarterback, because a young quarterback is being brought into the fold. So you don't want to have that pressure and that burden on that young quarterback and feel like you have to be Jaden Daniels. That's not going to happen. So now they have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, but Russell Wilson in particular gives them the opportunity to win some games, because this organization, this GM, this head coach can't be a 4 or 5 win team. They got to get it better this year and make some progress and allow the quarterback to be able to be developed. And if it is Shedeur Sanders or whoever it is, that pressure won't be squarely on that quarterback's shoulders to be the guy to save the organization field. So for Russell Wilson or whoever it was going to be, I think that bridge quarterback is something that was necessary.
So I wanted to start by going backwards here, Mel, for a minute, actually, which is to January 7th, when team owner John Mara talked about the need, John Mara, I should say, had the need for the team to find a quarterback. That was the number one mission this offseason. And part of the calculus in keeping Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll was the confidence that they could find that quarterback. It doesn't feel to me, Mel, like when they set out on January 7th to navigate this plan, that the options were going to start with Russell Wilson on a one-year contract and Jameis Winston, 2 years, $8 million. I think the maximum value is $16 million. Very much depth-level quarterback money. So have the Giants even come close to accomplishing that mission in your eyes?
I think all these quarterbacks are going to be iffy regardless field. Again, this is a league where I said before, you're not looking for singles, doubles. You're looking for grand slams and home runs and triples. And that's basically what it is. And in this division, with what we have seen from Jaden Daniels is that greatness ability, that greatness potential. Jalen Hurts has already been to 2 Super Bowls, won 1, and you got Dak Prescott. So again, this division screams you got to get a lot better.
Yeah.
How good can Russell Wilson be at this stage of his career off of what happened late at Pittsburgh? Who the heck knows? Yeah. This is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, right? I mean, Tom Brady was winning a Super Bowl at 44. Yeah. Can Russell Wilson recreate what we saw in Seattle during those great years? Who knows? I don't know. But at this stage, all these other quarterbacks that you could have brought in are all, you're trying to kind of catch lightning in a bottle in a way field. And again, we always talk about one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? You see it in the NFL now. We don't want this quarterback, but we'll let him go here, and that organization will allow him to shine. Happened with Sam Darnold, right? Now, another organization is banking on Sam Darnold being great. Okay, and you're talking about that being the Seattle Seahawks now. So again, you're thinking about quarterbacks now. It's kind of like, I won't say interchangeable, but it's like, okay, you didn't want to, we saw something we liked that you didn't see. But we like him a lot better than you do. Yeah. And we had a higher grade coming out of high school, out of college, and we loved him, and he hasn't materialized. But that was your fault. We're going to make him really good because you guys kind of screwed him up. So it's all these different things going on in the NFL right now, Field, where it's kind of like I say, again, you don't like him, but we do. And again, who knows how these quarterbacks are going to fare with his new organization, new coach, new system, new players. Who the heck knows?
Yeah, we don't know for sure, Mel, but let me just make this very clear, at least in my opinion. Like, the ceiling for this Giants team with Russell Wilson at quarterback, I think is low. Like, I don't think this team in a division that has 3 quarterbacks that we believe in, 2 that are absolute superstars, and Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels, the Super Bowl MVP, by the way, Jalen Hurts, and the best rookie season maybe ever from a quarterback, Jaden Daniels. The Giants and Russell Wilson, I don't care what they do the rest of the offseason. Most of the good players are accounted for, right? It's not like the Giants can get markedly better with what is available other than at the 3rd pick in the draft. I don't think the ceiling is very high. I have been consistent throughout this process. I know that you and I are different in terms of our evaluations of Shedeur Sanders. You're more optimistic than I am. But let me just say this, Mel. There is only one quarterback that is available to the Giants this offseason that I think has a real chance to give this organization hope for the future. And that's Shedeur Sanders, right? Like, I don't think Russell Wilson's best case scenario is, all right, we've got our guy that we're going to build around going forward. When you factor in the age, the recent performance, down the stretch last season, over the last 5 games, he had the 30th best QBR of 32 qualified quarterbacks. Well, I'm not as optimistic on Shedeur Sanders as you are. I do see a pathway for Shedeur Sanders to become a solid starter, maybe even above that in the NFL. And you need to have at least a solid starter to have the foundation of a team that cannot just win once, like the Giants did with Daniel Jones in the first season with Brian Daboll, but win consistently going forward. So for those reasons, Mel, even if he is not my third-rated prospect in this year's class, he's 16th for me on my board. I think the Giants still have to go with Shedeur Sanders at number 3 overall. I mentioned January 7th. That was the day that John Mara said they need to find a quarterback this offseason. It was also the day that they announced they were going to keep Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. If they have any chance to keep their job beyond 2025, Mel, I think they need to show that they have a quarterback plan that the fan base can get excited about. And if you're telling me the quarterback plan is to kick the can down the road and just draft a quarterback in 2026, a couple of factors here, Mel. One, how do we know what the 2026 quarterback class is going to look like for certain? You and I believe Carson Beck may have been the number 1 pick in the draft at the beginning of this past college football season. He ended up transferring, but staying in college because he had a bad year at Georgia. Moreover, everybody says Arch Manning, he can complete sort of the circle here, bring him to New York where his uncle Eli played. Who's to say that Arch is a guarantee to come out after next year from Texas, right, Mel? I mean, this is a player that a lot of people that I've talked to in the scouting community have been sort of earmarking more for the 2027 draft as opposed to the 2026 draft. So while in some ways the Giants' plan has been uninspiring, I do think it has a little more punch to it and a little more sensibility to it if they end up drafting Shedeur at number 3 overall. Let's say you were Joe Schoen, the GM, and look at it through 2 prisms, Mel. One prism is, I'm trying to keep my job beyond this year. The second is, what would you just do in a vacuum? What's your decision?
Well, here's what I would say about all that. I think when you go back to the optimistic, you said I'm not as optimistic as you are about Shedeur Sanders. I said to this field, I pose this to you. The LA Rams see Shedeur Sanders there at pick 26.
Yeah.
How would you feel about that?
I'd take him. Yeah, that'd be a 10-pick discount for me. Yeah.
Right. So you would feel pretty good if you're the Rams getting Shedeur Sanders at 26, right?
Yeah. Well,
so
I also have a lot of confidence in Sean McVay.
Right, exactly. And he would be the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford. It'd be a nice situation. So that would be excited about. Then you'd be optimistic, right? At the Rams at 26, but the Giants at 3, not as optimistic. So that's where we get the quarterback evaluations and the ratings. It's not like you hate Shedeur Sanders. You think it's a little high, but at 26, it would be pretty good. Right. And they would be thinking this is our guy and this is the quarterback we want moving forward after Matthew Stafford. And in terms of where I think the Giants are as an organization right now, if you say we can maybe win some more games this year, but we also have the quarterback of the future. That's what Mara said, that I want that quarterback of the future. Now, I'm not saying it has to be Shedeur Sanders. I mean, you go back a few years, Jameis Winston's on his team. He was a number 1 pick overall. Yeah. Marcus Mariota was a 2nd pick overall. He's backing up Jaden Daniels at Washington, right? Carson Wentz came in with Jared Goff. Carson Wentz is now moving around as a journeyman backup, right? So at the end of the day, you really don't know what you're doing, but you got to keep taking those shots. And that's what quarterbacking in the NFL is. It's taking shots. It's not the Matthew Stafford, Sam Bradford. Weren't they the last big contracts, Field? You know all about that. Who had the last you were almost committed to that quarterback through a monster contract. It was Bradford and Stafford, right?
Yeah. That's, well, I mean, amongst the number 1 picks, you're saying? Like the guys that, prior to the last rookie wage scale, it was, I believe, Sam Bradford. And then Cam Newton was the first quarterback that was not in that modified rookie wage scale. But yes, I think you have to keep swinging here, Mel. So even if I think the chances of Shedeur Sanders becoming a top 10 quarterback are 30 or 35%, that is a whole heck of a lot higher than what Russell Wilson is at right now. I think it's about 1% for Russell Wilson to reach that level. Moreover, the class next year, maybe it's great, Mel. Maybe we'll look back a year from now and we'll have 5 guys that emerge like Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix Jr. did last year. Or maybe not, right? Just like
you don't know.
You just don't know. We had one guy.
These people that always want to say next year, first of all, the head coach doesn't know if he'll be back. The GM doesn't know if he'll be back.
Yeah.
These players could care less about worrying about where we're going to be. They're playing for their life, right? They're playing for their job. Yeah. And then you think about Sam Levitt. Is he going to be back at Arizona State? I don't know. He's a young kid. What's he, 20 years old? Right. Okay. Drew Aller at Penn State going to take that next step and become the number 1 pick overall? He certainly is an LTPer. He looks the part, Drew Aller does, right? Yeah. But he hadn't always played like the number 1 pick overall. So is this the year everything comes together for Drew Aller at Penn State? You don't know, like, say, what Arch is doing. And we don't know if Arch is going to be a great quarterback. We haven't seen it. We've seen glimpses. We don't know. Yeah. He's played against lousy teams. Yeah. Okay. And when he started those games, when Ewers was out. So, yeah, no, you don't worry about next year. Next year, who cares? Like you said, Beck, Yeah, where's he at? He's in Miami now.
Yeah.
You know, what happened with these quarterbacks, you don't know. But the bottom line is there are other quarterbacks in this draft, though. And I think that's the Jackson Darts. How do you feel about Kyle McCord and Will Howard and Jalen Milroe and all these other quarterbacks that are in this draft? Dylan Gabriel, Curtis Rourke got hurt. So can you find somebody from those other 6 or 7 quarterbacks? Okay, one of those 6 or 7, think about it. 5 of those 7, 4 of those 7 are not hitting.
That's right.
Maybe one of those 7 hits as a successful starting quarterback in the NFL.
Correct.
And everybody's going to point to that guy and say, oh, you could have waited until the 3rd round and got that guy. But how about other 5 or 6 that didn't materialize into anything? Correct. So if you can catch lightning in a bottle, that's what I always say. You got to catch lightning in a bottle with these quarterbacks after the first 5 picks. History tells us that, right? It did all that research with that.
Sure did.
So again, you'll find a guy once in a while. Yeah, you will find that guy, but there'll be a lot of busts along the way.
Yeah, there sure will, Mel. History has told us that as well. We'll put a pin in it there for right now. I am Camp, I should say. Take Shedeur Sanders. Sounds like you are as well, Mel Kiper Jr. But one thing is for certain, we have now got a lot more intrigue in the first 3 picks in the 2025 NFL Draft.